Hey everybody, and welcome back to Talking Scream on Horror Film Lovers. This is the second episode where John Ward and I, hello John, how are you doing?
I'm fine. Thanks for having me back.
Yes, definitely. Are gonna be diving into Scream 2. Oh god, this is fun. Uh, ah,
Right there.
there
A
we
little
go.
bit over, a little bit over. There you go.
Ah,
Oh, oh,
there we
oh.
go.
There you go.
There we go. Perfect. All right, Scream 2. A movie that, as we've said on Scream 1, we were shocked. It was as good, if not, better than the original. You talked about this a little bit,
Yeah.
how you thought that it was actually, and I rewatched it, and rewatching it, what brought back memories is the soundtrack. Oh my God. Not just Marco Beltrami's amazing music that was in the first one, but like I'm a huge fan of like Sugar Ray and what is it, Collective Soul, and a ton of other people who were I think Less Than Jake did the famous redoing of what is it? The song that freaking what's his name sings, Jerry O'Connell sings in the movie. But anyway, yeah, I think I Love You, which was actually a Partridge Family song. And I think,
Yes.
I guarantee you Kevin Williamson wrote that, because I believe Kevin Williamson is a big fan of the Partridge Family. So he probably wrote that, that Jerry O'Connell's character sings that specific song. What is that?
I just happen to have this sitting here, the Partridge Family season
Nice.
2.
Nice.
It just happens to be right here.
So I Think I Love You is the song or whatever that he sings, and it's basically they say, Mickey says, "Oh, Top Gun 1986," which, man, makes me feel weird, because I keep thinking it's later, like early 90s, but it was 86 that Top Gun came out.
It was the film that made Tom Cruise a household name. So, he did Legend before that, which bombed.
Yeah, but he also did what's the other one that he did? Risky Business? Was that sort of one that really helped his career? Was that after Top Gun? I don't think that was after Top Gun.
No, it was before, but it was a film that did well, but Tom Cruise wasn't Tom Cruise yet. And then he did Legend, and then he was going to quit because Legend had so many problems. And then when he did Top Gun, boom, that's when he skyrocketed. So he was in Top Gun. He was known as, it's the guy from Risky Business, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And then after that, he was Tom Cruise.
Exactly. And so anyway, to go back and to start with, so it begins, begins in the theater, and I've actually been to that theater. By the way, do you know where that theater is that they shot the opening scene in?
Yeah, it's the Realtor. It's in.
Where is it?
It's in LA. I've been there. Yeah,
it's in Pasadena, if I'm correct.
It's in LA.
I believe it's in Pasadena, which is in LA.
Well, I mean, LA County, Pasadena City, LA City. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned earlier that you first watched, in the first Scream, you mentioned that you had watched or the first Scream in Pasadena. And so I thought that was interesting that the next movie has a scene that's basically, I think because I remember going to that theater and actually getting pictures taken of me and my former roommate, Jackie, went there to, she was like, "Oh, the theater that Scream 2, had the opening scene. That's actually like 5 minutes away from here. Do you want to go check that out?" I was like, "Well, yeah." like Scream 2 is like, such a big icon thing for me. I was like, I would love to. And I think it's now a church, if I'm correct, which is very weird.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
But
I have issues with that opening scene. Even though I love it, I still have issues with it. One, I've been to probably like 100 screenings. Not once has a screening ever been like that. That is a complete manufactured Hollywood screening. That would never happen in 1,000 years.
Well, all
and,
the
and
fans
that kind
just
of
jumping up and screaming.
Yeah, just that does not happen. I mean, I
nobody
went
ever
to
gives them the well, what bugged me was that everybody got Ghostface memorabilia or whatever, costumes and stuff, which bugged me because first of all, even in the 90s, you weren't supposed to have costumes. You're not supposed to wear costumes or masks, just because, nowadays it's even worse with that guy who dressed up like Joker and everything.
Yeah.
And, like, shot people. Like, nowadays, other than the mask that you have to wear because of, what, that is, that's a different thing, now that's safety reasons, not, but even then they wouldn't allow somebody to go into the screening of Scream right now at all dressed up like, Ghostface. They just wouldn't do that.
It's just not. I mean, obviously somebody like William Castle had, back in the day for House on Haunted Hill or The Tingler, he had his own stuff set up where like a ghost would fly down, or a skeleton would pop up or the seats would, electrify. But that was, a whole different time. And I was there for the I think it was a week before I Know What You Did Last Summer came out, and that we did see in LA. And that was packed. Like we're lucky that we even got seats, and everybody was mellow. Everybody was mellow. Nobody was running around and yelling. I think a couple people got kicked out because they were just being annoying, just loud. But that bothers me. And then I'm not a fan of Omar Epps' death. I think that knife, it's that wall is like that thick, and there is no way. I don't care what killer it is. There is no way that they're going to get that knife through that wall, that partition. And even when it went into his head that far, I don't think it would have killed him. I think he would have been messed up, sure, but I don't think it would have killed him. And that bothers me because I think what they should have done is they should have had a crease in the wall, like that separator, where it's two walls that are like this instead of just like that. And then the knife goes through that. But there's no way without a hammer. I mean, he doesn't even use his hand to kind of go like that to shove the knife through. It's like, no, I just don't. I'm not buying it. I was taught that too. I was like rewatching it today. I was just like, no, I don't. No, that wouldn't happen. And I kind of didn't like. It didn't sit well with me now. You know what I mean? Because like, that's not even a cool death, honestly. Later it got made fun of in Scary Movie where a dick went through or whatever, which was kind of funny. But like that was funny. But like the movie itself, like a glory hole. Yes, if it were a glory hole and the knife could fit through the glory hole, that could have been funny. But no, it was a dude putting his head up. Like it always made me go, and knowing like that it was either Mickey or the mother, Billy's mother, who was doing it. It had like the only thing I could think of was it was Mickey, and he would not be strong enough at all to do like that cool of a like death. Like it didn't sit well with me. No. I mean, I accept it and it's fine because my love for Scream. So it's just kind of like, all right, I just have to accept that. And it's just the way that it is. But it doesn't make a lot of sense. And I guess showing a boring crowd that's just sitting there watching the movie is not really interesting. So they have everybody running around and all that. I do like that the crowd thinks that Jada Pinkett's death is part of the show until they realize it's not.
Yep.
I do like that.
And I like that everybody takes off
that
their
I could
mask.
see happening.
Everybody takes off their mask at that particular time, or whatever. And I was just like, that's kind of cool. Like everybody's like, at that point, they're realizing, oh shit, this is real. Like, what the hell, we're not playing, or whatever. And I like that. So that opening was still sort of fun. Like the idea of like, you could be sitting next to, because he was wearing the same coat and everything, apparently the same build, I guess, and the same height as Omar Epps or so, like she never once guessed it was somebody else, until, well, I mean, even after, she was just like, what the fuck, also like the fact that it was Maureen Evans and I forgot whatever Stevens, Omar Epps' character, and so was Stephen Orff and Maureen. So they mentioned later that it's basically replaying Woodsboro, the murders,
which is very convenient that one of their names is not just like Williams or whatever, that two people just happen to date that have those names that match the original. So, I mean, good, as I'm sure the killers were like, phew, because man, the coincidence of that is pretty amazing.
And I can knock two of it out, because had it not been, they would just had to kill somebody else that had the last name Stevens, or whatever. But yeah, I don't know what, other than their names, what their connection was to I think
Mickey, that's it.
Was that it? You think? Because I wonder if Mickey.
I don't think they mentioned anything else.
Right. But I wonder if Mickey knew Maureen and was like, man, she's a bitch, she, or something, you know what I mean? Or it's
just a name thing. It just happened to be a coincidence.
Well,
I guess.
I also want to wonder if I ever got to interview Kevin Williamson, and I guarantee you he would say the same thing as you. It was just a name was, but I kind of wonder if maybe there was some kind of backstory that maybe Mickey dated Maureen and, they broke up and, and then she started dating him.
I think that would have been mentioned. See, I can't do this. That's why I don't really watch a lot of those fan theory type of things. Like there's a couple. There's Cobra Kai theory, and then after
and stuff.
And he always predicts what will happen for the next season. I just don't even bother watching those because these are pointless. Now I do enjoy when watching the things of who is ghost faced and who killed who. And if you watch the way they walk, it could be, that I like, but I don't get into what if this happened or that happened, because it would have been brought up at some point that he knew Maureen Prescott at some, that would have been brought up at
Maureen
the end.
Evans. Yeah.
I think
it probably would have been brought up because in the original Scream, remember, in the original Scream, it was brought up to Stu and Billy were talking or whatever, or Randy mentions, to Stu, didn't you date Casey Becker? It was like, yeah, for 5 minutes before I dumped her for, Tatum, and then, or whatever, that's thing. So it did already. In Scream 1, they already implemented that he could be the killer, right? If they had done that with this one, people would have already knew Mickey was the killer. So maybe you're right. Maybe it was just a random coincidence that she just knew a girl named Maureen that happened to go to Windsor College, which we haven't mentioned. Windsor College, apparently Ohio College, and fictional Ohio College in this movie, So,
well, yeah, you have to take a lot for granted. You really have to do some disbelief here because, and I think that Mickey, that he says, do you know what it was for me to get into this college? Do you know what it was for me to get into the class? That whole type of thing. But you got to really think okay, well, what if he couldn't get into this college? So it's all what the script wants us to believe. And so it's reasons, as they say now. Oh, well, why did this happen? Oh, reasons. It doesn't, these days, they don't give you a reason for this type of Stuff like, would Randy have been killed? And this isn't one of those things that I watched, if he wasn't bad mouthing Billy. So the mom is in the van.
Mm-hmm.
Randy's bad mouthing Billy right next to the van. And then she pulls him in a fit of rage because he's criticizing her son. That's how Randy gets killed. So, okay, what if Randy didn't badmouth Billy? What if he didn't say anything? What if he went left instead of right? Then that means that the killer would just be sitting in the van the whole time doing nothing.
No, he would have been killed because before he actually badmouthed Billy, I believe, if I'm correct, he does say, she does, like, the ghost face, aka the mom, says a line of like, "You're a dead man," and this was before, or whatever. She was just kind of like, the killer was just taunting him at that time. Then he starts talking about Billy and talking about what a repressed mama's boy, blah blah blah, and that pissed her off at that point. And that was at the end, I believe, of them, yelling at each other. And that's when the fit of rage comes, which once again made me wonder, you see how small Laurie Metcalf is? I mean, she's tiny. I'm sorry. I don't buy.
Well, yeah, that's
that she would have been able to grab him like that and throw him and do all that. Like, like Mickey, I can maybe get.
There's been a lot of criticism lately about like Charlie's Angels with with like Stewart taking on like 5 men, and she wins. And it's like, no, I don't care how well she's trained. She's not going to win with guys that are over 6 feet tall, that are like 300 pounds, that know martial arts or they know weaponry. She's not going to win. It's not going to happen. And so what I started doing while watching these Scream films, when I rewatched them, and I did rewatch the new Scream again, so I've seen it twice, is I've started looking at people's height.
Right.
So it's like, okay, so I'm kind of looking at, for like part 4, okay, so it's a taller guy. Well, they might be the same height, but it's like, like Emma Roberts is really short and she's pretty frail.
Oh yeah, no.
So you got to look at it kind of that way. Yeah, is Billy's mom maybe in a fit of rage, and Randy's kind of small, she might be able to take him on. But would she be able to take on what's his face, who plays like Sydney's boyfriend? Who's a frat boy and a jock and all that. Would he just be able to kick her ass?
Right.
So, that's, and so I think that it's, especially with the new Scream, is when I watched it the second time, is I was really looking at height.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it did not, I don't know. I don't think that it worked, but it's, I don't know. I think a lot of it is just script. A lot of it is just what they write. We need to get Randy killed, so we're going to have him walk past the van, and then she's going to pull him into the van. That's right. It. Like it's just the script reasons that's the script demands it. So that's what they do. There's really no, like, the coincidence of the guy with the boombox, the group of guys, they got the boombox playing as he's getting murdered.
Right. So nobody can hear him, being murdered or whatever. I mean,
good thing they walked by at that moment.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, if they had him walked by, would everybody else hear like him getting killed? I don't know. Who knows? But it did work. It did work well for the film.
Right.
I agree. There's just some things, in this film, just like Omar Epps' death in the beginning. Phil Stevens, by the way, that was his name, Phil, which I never would have pictured for Omar Epps. Phil. This doesn't look like a Phil to me, but whatever. Whatever. And Maureen, I don't know. Jada Pinkett Smith. Does she look like a Maureen to you necessarily? I don't know.
No, that goes back to script. Probably doesn't give it probably just gives the name and the age, and that's it. So they could cast white, black, Asian, whatever it is.
It had to be black because they made that whole, I mean, once they cast him, they wrote that. I mean, but he's got that scene in the beginning talking about white ass people getting their white asses cut the fuck up, which is a great line in the movie. I love it. and it works really well for her character. Especially for Jada Pinkett Smith, because I love her to death, but she is very vocal about, her feelings on
that could have been added after they were cast. Yeah, they're just tweaking the dialogue a little bit to add in some commentary, because she's kind of right. I think. I don't think. I mean, when she makes a comment about the ghost face, which has the bag that has the costume in it, and she goes, "Oh, look, white," and it's ghosts are white. I mean.
Yeah,
I don't know of any gray ghosts. I don't know of any yellow ghosts
or black ghosts.
Ghosts are white. Yeah.
I get it. But what really made me laugh too is there are two African American characters in the movie. One gets killed. The girl gets killed, which was the best friend, and then the other one is Joel. Was that his name? The camera guy. And funniest thing,
he was good. He was funny.
I re-looked him up, and because I was like, I swear to God, I know him from somewhere else other than Scream 2. But I looked him up and I couldn't find anything that like stuck out to me. But he was fantastic. And what I loved about his character was he was the voice of reason for all the African American characters who were like, what? A lot of people I know have said, I would get my fucking ass the fuck out of there, right? Like I would not. Like, why is he?
Well, a lot of that starts with Eddie Murphy, with the Delirious, where he compares white people in a haunted house to black people in a haunted house, right. Where the voice goes, "Get out," and the white people go, "Let's go and investigate." And he goes, "But black people would say this: let's get the hell out of this house." Right. It's which is absolutely true. So, but you brought up Sydney's friend, and I want to say before we go that, and I've mentioned this to you before, is I was on Scream 2's set and didn't even know it. Is when I was living in Pasadena, I was working at Tower Records, and at the time I didn't have a car, so I would walk home, and this is like 1 a.m, and that street is right across from where the parade happens every year. Oh. And that's a very well-known kind of fancy coffee shop or flower shop type of street. And one night I was walking home and I saw all this construction stuff, but it's weird. They're not doing construction. This is really weird. Why is there all this construction stuff here? And I kind of walked around looking at it, thinking like, this is kind of weird. And then when I saw Scream 2, realizing, wait, I know that shop. I walk past that shop every night. And so they must have shot like 3 a.m. or something. Yeah. Or maybe on day off or something, because I wasn't, I didn't see them actually shooting. But all of a sudden, all that stuff was gone.
Yeah.
So without even knowing it, I was on the set for Scream 2.
Awesome, man. I wish you had taken a picture back then, or whatever. Hey, me on set.
Yeah.
That's what people do nowadays, But yeah, that's so funny because that was Elise Neal's death, right? Like she was the girl who played Hallie.
Yeah, she dies right in there.
Yeah, that was one of my, like, after rewatching it again, I was like, oh man, like, why didn't they just listen? Like, once again, voice of reason. She said, we are smart people. We leave, we don't go back, we run away, right? And she's like, I'm sick of running away. And I'm like, God damn you, Sydney, for being Sydney.
I gotta go back and look.
I have to go back and look and find out, oh my God, where is he? Oh, he's killing your friend right now because you had to go back and look, you fucking bitch. That scene, and the scene that drives me crazy because it's so fucking long is the scene with and I think honestly it should have been cut down somehow. I don't know how, but it should have been cut down because it's a 2-hour long movie. It didn't need to be that long. But there's the scene with Dewey and Gail inside like the audio sections and stuff, but like before then they're like walking around for a while. Yeah. And I'm like, this is slowing down the movie, man. And this is having had not seen it for a while, like I hadn't seen it for years, and rewatching it going, ooh, okay, like this need to be cut, because this is getting to be a little bit too long. Like get to the cutting and the death, before, you're just all hanging out. And I understand, like, it's building them back chemistry up again, and everything. And they're having these scenes together, but I'm like, oh, this could have Patrick Lussier, I think that's how you say his name. The guy who did Drive Angry, who directed Drive Angry, which
yeah. He's known as being an editor. Yeah, Dracula 2000 and all that stuff. Yeah,
he edited Scream 2, and he should have cut that stuff a little bit more. Now, he may not have been able to be allowed to from Wes Craven's, stuff or whatever. But like that should have been cut a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think that bothered me that much. So
it bothered me a little bit.
For me, just the stuff that stands out which is my problem with part 5, is that I like the people in the background. So I like that you have like a Portia, Portia DeRossi. Then you have, of course, Cher Rebecca Gayheart is the two sorority sisters. At the time, the biggest star on the set would have been Sarah Michelle Gellar, because she was doing Buffy at the time. So, I mean, just having those things in it, I think kind of make up for those moments that you're talking about. Like they could have been edited down a little bit.
Joshua
so it's, for me, those are the highlights.
Dawson's Creek. I mean, I was kind of sad he didn't die. I mean, he did die, and spoilers alert, but he did die in Urban Legends, but he didn't die in Scream 2. Like, they didn't do anything with him. And he could have been a Stevens or something that they killed, or whatever, to make that work, where they didn't have to have 2 and 1, or he could have been another person, another name, like Hembry or something. I don't know, whatever. That could have worked with the recreating Woodsboro, or they could have dropped that. That didn't really be needed for the movie. Honestly, they didn't need it to be like they're recreating Woodsboro, because really they're going after fucking they were really just going after Sydney, like people around Sydney, so the fact that they went after Casey Beck or Cece, which was Sarah Michelle Gellar's character, is because Sarah Michelle Gellar's character is at the sorority that's not being at the party. They're not having a party at that sorority. So really, that's the only
she's that
reason.
Designated driver.
Yeah, so that's the only.
Well, and that's what I'm saying, is that it's very fortunate. It's that all these people just happen to have these names, and that they're so it's reasons and just script. It's convenient for the script. So it's just one of those things of you have to accept it, otherwise it completely falls apart. It's kind of like the game with Michael Douglas. If everything is set up, but if Michael Douglas makes a left instead of a right, the entire movie is done.
But
he has to follow it exactly the way that it's planned. And that's the same way with the two killers, or any of the killers in Scream, is if somebody goes to, what if Tatum did make it through the hole in the garage? What would they do? She would run back in and say, I'm being chased by a killer. Right. So it's a good thing that she's top heavy and was not able to make it through there. Well, it's just you just have to kind of let a lot of things go. And I do want to bring up the ending before we go, because I do like the ending. I do like that it's Billy's mom. I like that she found him on Craigslist or whatever it is. and that there's this whole plan.
Serial killer website or whatever.
Killer website or something. Yeah. Well, Craigslist, I guess. That's where a lot of these killers come from. And so because I bring up the ending, because that is something that I'm going to bring up when we review part 5, because I have a huge issue with the second time I watched it with something with that. So I don't want to say what till we get to there. So I like that ending. I like that Gail gets shot. Again. That's where Dewey gets stabbed, again in the back.
Which, I mean, both movies had, it was a sequel. And this is what you do for sequels. You give the people, basically a remake of the first one in a way that's also very different and new and interesting. And that's what they did. They pretty much, it just replayed what happened. So I guess that's fine that it was the killers were, they killed off people with the same names, because it was a sequel, it was a real life sequel, as whatever, sequels suck, as Randy says, or whatever.
Which they don't. That's his horrible opinion, because there are very good sequels, and I don't care what he says about Empire Strikes Back. It is a sequel. I don't care if it's part of a trilogy. It is a sequel. Godfather 2 is a sequel. Jaws 2 is a good sequel. It's not as good as Jaws, but it's still a good sequel.
I did forget to mention something I brought up to you before, talking about the film class scene, where they fucked up. They fucked up, and they did not correct themselves, and they did not. And I sent you the link about it, or whatever, the little IMDb goof thing of it. But there's that line in the movie where he says, get away from her, you bitch. And he was like, I believe the line is, stay away from her, bitch. This is film class, right? And no, it is get away from her, you bitch. So apparently Joshua Jackson was supposed to say, stay away from her, you bitch, and say, get away from her, you bitch. And was it Jamie Kennedy just kept going, and that's fine. But usually what happens when the scripty person will say, no, the line was supposed to be that. Can we, retake it? That's how film.
Well, the script supervisor.
That's what I'm saying, scripty.
And then if Craven says, so if Craven is fine with it, he would just have that person make the adjustment on the script. But because it is Craven, and because it is Kevin Williamson, and we've already had many interviews of him being a film geek, and then we now, and Randy is supposed to be a film geek, they should have reshot it.
Yeah.
They should have done a second take on it.
Especially if he's going to say all these things about how films are blah, 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 and he's going to be a film snob in a way. And you know what I mean? Then he should know the exact quote. Or they should have had that line where, Joshua Jackson shows him up and says, no. It was get away from her, you bitch. You're wrong. And that would have been great, too. But see, because I didn't know that, because I didn't see Aliens till much later in life. And I saw it after having seen Scream 2. And I saw it and I went, wait a minute. The line was stay away from her, you bitch, I thought, right? And no, it's not. And it's it's get away from you, bitch. And you can see it on YouTube and everything. So Randy was wrong, and makes me sad to hear that, because he's such a big part of the film geek stuff,
Well, and that's where, it almost falls into the whole Empire Strikes Back thing, where people have been misquoting that for a long time. I may be saying it right or wrong, I'm not sure, but it's something like, it's not Luke, I am your father. It's something like, I am your father, Luke, something like that, where we've been misquoting it for decades. And so now I guess you could have, I'm a film geek, you're a film geek. I never caught that Randy said it wrong, even though I know it. I've seen Aliens like 10 times. I know the line. I've said it myself, but I didn't catch it in the film. So he can make a mistake, but that kind of falls into when he says sequels suck. Now that I know that he said the line wrong, to me, that once again says, no, they don't suck. You're wrong, because you even got the line from Aliens wrong.
Exactly.
Aliens is better than Alien. So,
which I love that line of, and I guess I had to throw this in for Miramax or whatever, but there's that line where, what's his name? Randy is going through the list of suspects. And they're like, Mickey, the Tarantino film freak student, or whatever. But if he's a suspect, so am I, all right, so let's move on. It's like, let's not move on. Maybe you are a suspect. I love that scene. But like the idea that Mickey is basically his competition for film geekness, right? And they're having that little bit between themselves with the, Empire Strikes Back and Godfather and all that stuff. And yes, I agree. It's not, who cares if it's part of a trilogy? It is still a sequel. Only Godfather, I believe, can be considered that, because if you look at it, it's not part of a trilogy. Star Wars is actually more than that, because it starts at 4, 5, and 6. So it's whatever. Like they were already planning to be a series.
That wasn't until later, though. I mean, they were originally just called Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi.
Right.
So it's
because
at least, yeah. So I mean, the Godfather stuff is part 2 does pick up after part 1. And then, of course, part 3 is many years later, but it's still technically the Godfather trilogy, but it is called part 2. So I disagree with Randy on that.
And Star Wars, like 1 through, or 4 through 6 are originally called the Star Wars trilogy, before the original trilogy. Then there's the prequel trilogy, and then there's the other ones that we don't talk about.
Well, they start like this and they kind of break down. So it's like, the Star Wars films are trilogies, and then you have each individual part of that trilogy, but they would still be a part.
Yep. Exactly.
So Scream, you could call a series.
Yeah.
Not movies. It could be a series.
Because you wouldn't say Scream trilogy, because Scream 1 through, but then again, in 1998, there was no Star Wars Episode 1 until 1999, I believe, right? So 99 was when Phantom Menace came out. So 98 is when Scream 2 came out. So there was only a trilogy at that time. So,
well, the way I look at it is Scream 1, 2, and 3 are its own thing. Right. It is the trilogy. So it is the original Scream trilogy. Part 4 is by itself, and part 5 is the start of, from what I understand, a new trilogy.
Okay.
But 4 will always kind of be that standalone movie, which they were going to do 2 more, but Wes died.
Right. So, okay. So 4, yeah. So Wes died, then now they're going to see, because now you can't do 4, 5, and 6 as a trilogy, because the only connecting thing is a couple of the characters, or whatever, like that. Whatever. Anyway, we'll get into that when we get into 5, or whatever.
Yeah.
Which we're always getting ahead of ourselves. But just because there's so much to talk about with all of these things, there's so much going on. But yeah, we didn't even scrape the bottom of the barrel for like a lot of these things. There's so much that you can talk about with these movies, with each one.
Oh yeah, you could talk for a couple hours on them. Yeah, each one. Yeah,
I almost feel you could talk days if you really, wanted to.
I mean, I'm looking forward to us talking about part 3, because I've now liked part 3, and I didn't like it before, but after rewatching, I like it. So now I have plenty of stuff to talk about.
I haven't watched part 3 in a while yet, and it's always been my least favorite. So I'm interested to talk about part 3 too. Not part 3, part 2, but part 3 as well, because I think it'll be interesting, because I always rank that lower, and so far that is ranked lower, the lowest of everything still. So who knows? My ranking may change after I watch part 3. We'll find out when we do our rankings, episode. So anyway, thank you guys for checking this out. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Join us next week for a brand new episode where we will be talking about Scream 3. So I would have watched it by then, and I will let you know whether or not what I think. I have no idea. Like, it's exciting for me because I remember hating it. And there are some movies sometimes I rewatch and I'm like, damn, why did I hate this as much as I did? I know why I hate 3, and that's mainly because it wasn't written by Kevin Williamson, and that might have already like put me in a bad pill, because Kevin Williamson became my like idol for a long time for film. So
I would say when you watch it, just look at Courtney Cox's bangs. Whoever decided on that hairdo should have been fired.
I've heard
and
it was
that hairdo
her.
has been brought up.
Oh
my God, it's awful. And she's so thin.
Oh, can't wait to discuss that, because if you notice in part 2, he says nice streaks, right? So already,
and she looks awesome.
I know, she looks great in part 2. She looked great
1
in
and 2.
1.
She looks awesome.
Yeah. So I think the whole idea is she's getting,
and 4.
I think part 1 she was really good, like her hair was fantastic. Part 2 her hair was great. Part 3, boom. Part 4, boom. Part 5, her hair's just getting mildly worse each movie.
I would say that she looks good in all of them except for 3. I don't know why somebody would pick that hairdo, and I tried to get past it because I've now seen part 3. I want to say like 4 times, and she is so emaciated in that film. She looks like if somebody touched her, like her bones would break. I mean, I don't know who said to do that. Somebody said you need to lose 20 pounds. Somebody chose that hairdo. Even if it's her, she should be. No, that hair is so bad.
Maybe not. Maybe it's not her. I don't know, but we'll find out later someday, maybe. But anyway, maybe we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it in part 3. So,
we will
join us next week for a brand new episode where we are talking Scream, and we're going to talk Scream 3, with you guys. So, thank you guys, and thank you, John. And
thank you.
I'm excited about this. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.